What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, closet swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. I see you guys all piling into the room. We got Chuck with us. Al, good morning. Albert, Alex, Bill, Brian's in the house. We got Brian Reppel in the house. Christopher, good morning. Eric, Rocky with us. Greg K, GWJ, Joe, Liza's in the house. Rock, good morning. Ron's with us. We got Ron, Tony, Win, Yovaris. You guys are piling in. All my peeps in YouTube land. Welcome to a real life trading all access pass pre-market show. Hope you guys are doing terrific. Whew. We got maybe, potentially, possibly, I couldn't even think of it. We got the maybe first sign today that employment numbers might finally start be breaking toward Jerome Powell's way. We will see. Tomorrow's the bigger number, but today could give us a little bit of glimpse, a little bit of hope that I mean, I never sound so cynical in my life. We're so happy that people are not working. It's crazy. But yeah, this is the first little sign that we had. So we were gapping down prior to 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Those numbers came out for the unemployment claims. We were expecting 195, and it came in at about 210. So unemployment claims are up. Again, bad news for the people unemployed, but good news for the overall economy. So survival of the fittest. Just be better at whatever you do and then just try to survive. But maybe that could be, again, that's the market is, I think, a little bit worried. Right now, we are sitting where a 50-point basis hike is in the realm for the Fed, which as of probably the start of this week, it was there. There was always a chance. But it's a lot stronger chance after Jerome Powell's last 2 days. And realistically, after his first day on Tuesday. Yesterday, really, really choppy day. If we just pull up the 15-minute chart, we had a little bit of a down move, got very close to maybe ending the days at the lows, had a little bit of rip higher. So we're starting to get some buying coming in. And again, if we could get those numbers tomorrow on the jobs report, that is showing that the jobs are finally starting to dwindle. Companies are starting to tighten up. They're starting to lay off. That's going to be a big help for improvement. And then we have to look for, I believe it's March 14th for the CPI to see if inflation is also cooperating. If inflation is down, more people are starting to get unemployed. That means that the tightening has been working. And we're starting to still a long road ahead, and I think we still get the 0.25 going forward, and probably still pretty far away from a pivot at this point. But at least that shows us that we're sitting in the right spot. So again, a little bit of chop fest yesterday. Market's kind of all over. We do have this new higher low. Lots of buying toward the end of the day, so this could be some type of retest gap. However, we might be. I'd be watching this 400 number very closely. 487, 490. So somewhere in the upper 400s. That's probably where we get the first resistance. So I'm not sure with that amount of buying, that kind of volume coming at the end of the day, if we probably take a step back first, we sell anybody that's like, whew, somehow I survived. They take a little bit of profit, but really the resistance. The stronger resistance today would be somewhere at 489, let's call it, and then support on the SPY should be about 398.88. This yesterday was the first day in 2-3 days where we actually put in a higher VPOC as well. So we'll see if we get that continuation, but I'm going to start to probably look bullish for today for day trades. We're going to have a lot of resistance coming in, and it could still be a little bit more to the chop fest if we do go bullish. And I think there's still some worries on the table for tomorrow's numbers. I think it's going to be a big deal tomorrow. And if that's the case, if we get bought up, I could see us selling off close to the end of the day. So, and then just probably closing flat, maybe another little high wave indecision would make sense to me, but we'll see how the day actually wants to play out. The Qs themselves, a little bit of a retest gap. So Qs we've said have been holding a little bit stronger. So obviously they've all come down with everything else, but tech is still a little bit to the stronger side. This would be a retest gap. Let's see if we could get, probably the retest would come into, I'm looking at first support, first bounce spot, somewhere around 298.09. And let's see if we hit this thing pre-market or not. Extended trading hours. We were pretty much right there. Yep. So that was actually resistance. Also after hours, looks like we came through it. So yeah, a little bit of a pullback would make sense. And then if we're going to go bullish, great. Anything under at this point, probably about 295.73, and we probably see Flushy McFlushy make an appearance. Chuck says no chance of 0.75. I don't think 0.75. No, I don't. I think with the market just heavily looking at 0.25 for a very long time, almost considered, they almost wrote that down in the books as a fact that was happening. And I think we've itched up to a 0.5. If we get a 0.75 to that point, we're going to see one big massive sell-off. This sell-off, and I have the Qs up, so I'll just use this as an example, but works the same for the SPY as well. This move right here, this big massive drop, it's because at that point, during these time frames, 0.5 was not really considered. It was almost being brushed off. So I don't think the 0.5 was priced in. At this point, even if we get a 0.5, I think there's a little bit of a pullback. We're starting to price in. This is us pricing in like, okay, 0.5 might be possible. If they want to drop a 0.75 on us, 75-point basis hike, that's not being priced in. That will be a massive drop. 0.5 at this point. We probably take a little bit of a dip, but I don't think anything compared to the 7.5. So I think Jerome Powell has flexibility to go 0.5 at this point, just because now the market's like, okay, we got it. We understand it, and we're just kind of rebalancing everything. Roku and Shop, don't look too worried. We'll take a look at those. This is so crazy. I remember the time when the numbers were bad, the market fell. Yeah, that rotates all the time. It depends on the day. Depends on the day. We'll take a look at Microsoft as well. Joe says, great morning. All good morning to you as well, Joe. Ron says, do you think, do you mark your charts with pre-market high lows? I don't. I know some very good traders. I think Jeremy does as well. Especially for when using like the 10 EMA strategy, you're going to want to know that stuff. I'll typically just use the VPOX and kind of know where they're at throughout the day for myself. But I'm not opposed to marking the charts up like that as well. Richard Jet in YouTube land, good morning to you as well. And looks like we have some other followers, some lurkers just hanging out in YouTube land, just not saying anything, but that's okay. Good morning to all you guys as well. All right, let's take a look at some of your picks. Let's scroll up and get Roku and Shop. Roku. Yeah, so technically retest gap. Again, nice little hammer, good, kind of good bear trap that I put in yesterday. This could be a nice little double bottom on Roku, actually. Obviously, we're coming off of, we had earnings here. That was technically a retest gap. Never really got down for the retest until here. And now we are building some kind of a decent support, somewhere around 62.11 on this one. So I think it's worth a try to go bullish on this thing. Out of the gate, it should be a retest. I know I would expect maybe we could get it like $64 would be a decent price to look, even though that's not a full-on retest. But that would be my little bit of support, 64.04, something like that. and then throwing a stop down at 61.85. So you have a decent 64. That gives us about $2.15. And then we need essentially about $4.30 from there. We have more than enough room on Roku. We could get a little back and forth. This looks like a really good resistance somewhere around $65. So that would give us up to, that wouldn't give us that much of a target where the risk reward is good if our stop is all the way down there. So we'd have to see. The only way to really take this trade would be if you think we could get past that point. The market looks extra strong today, and then we're looking at 67 would give us a better risk reward. But definitely want to watch. On the daily chart, looks decent. Not the best gap I've ever seen, but it is a gap, and I definitely don't want to be the first one in. One, because it's a retest gap, but two, we're a lot closer at this point to the where I think resistance comes in. So for that one, I'd have to just be patient. I have no problem waiting, sitting on my hands for that one. All right. Shopify. As of now, doesn't look like we're gapping. So we're actually pulled back a little bit. If we could get this one off of, first spot I would look is about 43.47. So we get a little bit of a bigger pullback. The appropriate stop would be realistically about 42.28. Next immediate target is about 44.87. So I'd at least be shaving a couple shares there. And then maybe we could eventually start making it up to this little bit of a gap fill. Keep in mind, though, this is a pretty big gap and go. Right? That's a pretty major gap and go. I think that is going to be a very decent resistance for this thing. Somewhere around 44.92. I'll call it $45 even, but slightly probably under that should be a decent resistance where if that's going to fade, that's, I think, where the bears want to step in, push this thing down. Anything that really starts clearing there, or especially 45.71, and I think looking close to that 48.08 is a appropriate target. So it's kind of in a little bit of a chop. It is a decent gap. If we do rotate from here, that would be higher lows. But I've seen this a lot where we kind of just gap and go, kind of fade up a little bit, and then something like that could happen. So we'll see, but it's if it wasn't for that gap and go, I think that would look decent. All right, Microsoft, Mr. Softy. So I kind of like this one the best so far. We at least have some room up until about 258.02. I don't know if that breaks today with the concerns about tomorrow's report. I think it's going to be very difficult for a lot of these things to really make that push. But if for some reason we think 258 breaks, 258.14, we have a really, really nice target all the way back to about 265. The question is, how are the bulls feeling heading into tomorrow? But that is a little bit of a gap and go. We are clearing some decent. We should have some support. Kind of looks like we're opening at it right now. And then the next immediate target still could get you about $3, slightly under. So about $2.80 to the high side before I think resistance really starts to roll in on Microsoft. But otherwise, decent little gap and go. Could be a sneaky one. Jenny's in the house. What's up, Jenny? How do I rate? Sky says, how do I rate the Microsoft gap? So I'll go with 1 being horrible. I'll go with 10 being incredible. I'd probably put it at about a 6.5. You guys didn't think I was going with decimals, but I am. I'm going to go about 6.5 on this one because it is decent. I do like the fact we're above here. I think targets on the day could get us to that 258 range. I just don't know if the risk to reward, and that's probably the only reason. If this thing was gapping anywhere above 258.49 or even 258, I would say it's probably close to about an 8-9, and then we have a good range on this thing. So just a tighter range, but we could make something happen maybe on a day trade on that one. Mongo database. Now this one, people just lost lots of money on. I wish the volume candles here were more impressive. I did not do PayPal. Nope, I'll do that one next. This one looks a little bit more of an intense sell-off. Again, this should be a gap and go. This is a major gap and go. Just one indecision, so I'll call it 3 days of really buying. All got taken out. We're under all those moving averages. The one thing about Mongo database is we are at some type of support. So this could be a little bit of actually a fade higher. Maybe a better short would come probably close to about 210.54. Try to short this thing as high as possible. You might have some interest in buying it up here. This is a good retest of kind of this little candle that looked like it was about to break down, and bulls definitely stepped in there. You're at the top of that candle. You're also sitting at support. If this thing comes down, my next target to the downside would be about 201. So 201.50 to the downside, to the high side on this thing, 210.36. Kind of smack in the middle. I probably won't touch Mongo database for me personally out of the gate, just because it's about a 50-50 coin flip right now for which direction this thing wants to go. Does this support hold? If not, yeah, you can make some money to the downside. If it does hold, you can make some money to the upside. I think I get better risk reward in general if this thing breaks first, we come down and we start testing this 201.31 zone, somewhere in that area. Or if this thing just starts actually coming back for a retest when everybody thinks maybe this thing should drop, and that would take us to this 210 area. So pretty much I'm just going to wait, see what this one does, and do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. Let's take a look at PayPal, PYPL. The PayPal. That one looks decent. So technically it's a retest gap. I would rate this one higher than Microsoft though, because we're actually gapping out of some kind of range. Keep in mind, this is a retest gap. I would be looking for about 76.86 as my support. I don't know if this comes into a full on retest, but I do think this one probably pulls back a little bit at open. 76.86 would be my zone, at least to look at. And then next, probably immediate target would be somewhere around 78.20. And the high one where I think we just absolutely get Stonewall Jackson would be about 79.22. So it's got some room to the higher side, especially if we could wait for a little bit of a pullback that could give us maybe about $2 higher. But at least we're breaking out of some kind of pivot. I still think we do get a little bit of selling, a little bit of a pullback. Somebody's probably shocked they're actually making some money at opening. They're like, finally, something didn't go against me. Take some profits. Schwab setting up for a nice bearish gap and go. You got a short Schwab. Yeah, that one looks interesting. There's a lot of selling into this thing. So let's see if yes, technically retest, technically it's a gap and go from yesterday. But nice little selling into it. Are we at some kind of support on this thing? I would say see if we could get bought up somewhere around 72.09. So to the downside, we might have a little bit of support approaching us. Somewhere around the $72 range would be a good, decent buy spot where people might be interested in saying, all right, well, buy low, sell high, and try to play it more like a retest. Again, yeah, if we're going with one candle, and I agree with this 100% wholeheartedly, that is definitely a good gap and go. The selling that came into it prior, the last two weeks, anybody shorting Schwab They finally got the break they needed. I would think this thing gets bought up into back to that range, and then we kind of come down. So somewhere around 75, 50, 76 would be another spot to attempt to reshort this thing. Looks like a beautiful head and shoulders, though. All right, so head and shoulders. Neckline would be, I don't even know if we get much buying at all, but even that, I could see something like that happening. So maybe we don't even make it to 75, 70, $74, somewhere in that range. But we are with this dotted line. This is a high volume area, and it's definitely a spot where I think some people might want to be buying this thing up. Ron says, can we check IWM? For you, Ron. Okay. If it was anybody else, no, can't do it. Can't do it. For you, gotcha. All right. IWM. Slight little gap up. Pretty much just an inside day at this point. You might find support right around here somewhere. You should be finding a little bit of support, but it is an inside day. We do have a high wave. I would expect maybe a little bit more chop than not. To the high end, you got those moving averages starting to roll in. You also have a VPOC slightly higher, somewhere 187.40. But you do have a little bit of support, but with that high wave being there, you might run into a little bit of chop on this one. TLT, so that's bonds ETF. Tyler Gray, thoughts on Meta. Gap on the daily. We'll take a look at that one as well. This one still inside day, so you might struggle a little bit at open. Could be a little choppy at open. Probably good idea to look for a short, though, at the resistance. So that would be 101.78. So if we could come back for a little bit of a retest into this one little VPOC, that would be a spot where I would be interested in attempting a short. We got these moving averages kind of rolling up a little bit. And then to the downside, we're looking at probably about 101.22. So you'd have about a 55 cent potential on TLT. TLT doesn't really move too much typically, because it is an ETF for the bonds, and bonds are turtles for the most part. I prefer swing trades on TLT over day trades. If that candle breaks, that last candle from yesterday, if that breaks to the higher side, though, that would be a decent looking swing. Tesla. So Tesla is gapping down pretty heavily prior to that 8:30 report, unemployment numbers. We are sitting at, we've had nothing but bears step in, been extremely weak for quite some time. We do have yesterday's VPOC, which we are slightly at to below right now. This is going to be an absolutely key level. I still have some puts on Tesla I'm holding. I'm planning on trying to get rid of today, but just heading into the numbers for tomorrow, I would love to just clear the book and not be too worried about tomorrow's number regardless. But I really think this thing has the ability to get down to 173.27. That's only the 38% retracement of this entire big move. And we could even be looking at a 160 as a 50% retracement. So this does have a lot of room, still further to the downside. I think investors are kind of still just a little bit angry at Elon Musk for not really presenting a cheaper version of the cars at the last investor conference day. So this thing is still kind of taking tumbles. It's 1, 2, 3. We sold a lot already. So could we get a potential little bounce? Yeah, anything's possible, but we have to watch this range right here, somewhere around. So we can zoom in a little bit. I would say this is about 180.94. So let's call it 181. If it starts breaking 181, then we might get some kind of a bounce. Still definitely strong downtrend. And I still think we have the ability to hit this 173. Problem is, for me holding puts, do I want to really play that little bit of a gamble game tomorrow? But even as the market has, when at least intraday, when the market starts running, Tesla's has not been the same. So Probably would still look to continue bearish as much as possible, especially under 181. Anything above 181, we might be able to look for some kind of a bullish pop to some extent, at least. 3 minutes and 55 seconds to go. All right, Meta. What you got for me today? Meta, Mark Zuckerberg. I think didn't Instagram go down for a little bit yesterday? I think there was some blackouts on Instagram from what I was seeing. But market doesn't care. Maybe they got it all back and it's an even better version for them. They're just, you want what you can't have sometimes. You want what you can't have. So again, this is a retest gap. You have a little bit of support resistance right here, 185.62. And the next one is about, I'll call it 186. This is a very, very tight range. Anything above 186.41, really, we start to lean a little bit more to the bullish side of things. But we do have all of that resistance from that previous little pivot right there as well. So the high end of this, maybe we could look for 188.66. But if you're going bullish, I can't really go bearish yet. There's no reason to. I mean, to the downside, I got 183.60. To the bullish side, I got 188.54. So it's an okay gap. It is a retest gap. We're still kind of just in this little chop zone where the bears definitely stepped in strong last time. Anything in the tech world has still, again, a little bit more strength. And I'm just more worried about targets on this one than anything else. But looking for a buy 185.62. A much better spot would be 183.60 if it does pull back a little bit deeper than we might expect. Datadog went down. Might break 181 pre-market on Tesla. Yeah, it's possible. We have those 2 minutes left. So we'll see. See how this wants to hold. Even if it breaks it, though, I think it's got to, in open hours, come back, retest it, use that 181, slightly under 181 for support. So I think we still have an opportunity. I don't think we have to get too aggressive with it today. Datadog. So this is a retest gap. It looks pretty decent. First stop, which is very, very weak, 70.93. I think that has potential to break. I'd be looking at 68.34. See if we get some kind of a buy at 71 or short at 71.91. So this one, out of all of it, at least has a bigger range on this one. Sentiment on the broader markets, slight bullish today. Slight bullish. I do think if we do run a little bit extra bullish today, it will be a great time to sell rips later today. So I think bullish at open. I don't know how the end of the day is going to react, but I would think that we could get some kind of sell-off a little bit later today. Markets could be stubborn, so it might be a little longer than we think. But then as we roll to the close of the bell, I would expect some kind of just people trying to take some profits, take some things off the table. Tomorrow is going to be an absolutely huge day for the market with the 8:30 numbers. I think everyone's looking at it. Everyone's focused on it. Probably a bigger reaction than some of the previous CPI reports that came out. I'm putting a lot of weight on tomorrow. So that could cause a little bit of extra chop today. We'll see. But we only have 20 seconds left. Make sure everybody in YouTube land, unfortunately, this is the time where I got to disconnect. You don't have to leave. You can just go to realliftrading.com, go to All Access Pass. We do this all day long from 9 a.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern, and we have different classes, different schedules, afternoon rooms, morning rooms, live trading. Man, just so much stuff. But make sure on the way out, you guys hit that little thumbs up, the like, subscribe. You guys are absolutely incredible.